And if you want something in life, you got to go for it. Don't just, pray and say, "Oh my God, I want to be rich," and "Oh my God, I want to be successful." No, you got to bust your ass. You got to wake up every day with a plan and keep working at it. And when you accomplish it, that's when the real work starts. Because once you become successful, there's 100 people that want to take you off that pedestal. So that's when you got to work even harder to stay there and maintain what you have and what you've built.
If you've ever been told you weren't good enough, not big enough, not fast enough, not smart enough, or if you've ever felt paralyzed by a failure you just weren't willing to accept, this is the show for you. Hustle and Motivate is a blueprint built by guests who've conquered obstacles, silenced critics, and overcome adversity by seeing every failure as an opportunity, realizing the true power of the underdog mentality. This is Tyler O'Shea, and you're listening to Hustle and Motivate. Manny Kess is the founder and CEO of the Kess Group, a full-service concierge company based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. His clientele includes A-list celebrities and superstar athletes such as Odell Beckham Jr., Von Miller, Jarvis Landry, Travis Kelce, Kevin Durant, and many more. In our conversation, Manny talks about the injury that derailed his D1 soccer career, the path that led him to Vegas, how he built his massive network, and some of the weirdest requests he's gotten from his clients. Here is Manny Kess. So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Manny Kess. I am the founder and CEO of the Kess Group. We are a full-service concierge company based out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
And on your website, you describe the Kess Group as a custom event creation agency that transforms any idea into a lifetime experience. Can you go into a little bit more detail about the types of services you guys offer?
Absolutely. So, basically, we started off as a concierge company. So people come to Vegas, they want to know what hotel to stay in, where to dine, what pool parties to hit, what nightclubs to go to, shows, etc. So we started by guiding people and telling them based on, what they were coming for, the time of the year, what was happening, where to go. And slowly that evolved to dealing with more affluent people, whether it be foreign dignitaries, athletes, celebrities, and then we deal with large groups. So we have big corporate groups. We've had events for up to 2,000 people, and now we curate events. So, for example, Company X is like, hey, there's 500 of us. We're coming here for 4 days for a convention or a conference, but we want to do a few things outside of work, kind of help us. And so what we'll do is we'll set up an itinerary that maximizes their time within their budget and give them something that's unique and customed to what they want, because everyone's different, right? What I like, you might not like, and vice versa. So once we find out what each person or each group wants, then we customize the trip and make it exactly the best for them.
And I know you work with some pretty big time clients in sports and, just A-list celebrities, Odell Beckham, Von Miller, Jarvis Landry. How often do you get to see your clients?
Well, that depends on the client. A lot of the guys that you mentioned, they come to Vegas a few times a year. So, I'm lucky to take care of them when they come here, but they're also friends. So being a big sports fan that I am, I like to travel and I go support them, because the big thing with me is it's not just a client, right? They're friends. So they come here and they use us. So the least I could do is go support them. So I'll go to Denver and visit Von. I'm going to go to Cleveland to visit Jarvis and Odell, and the same can be said for our other clients. We do our best to support them. So we're like a big family. So we travel together with some of the guys. So it all depends on what's happening. And again, time of year is important for us. The summer is usually our busy time here in Vegas. So I have the opportunity to do a lot more traveling in the fall and the winter when the pool season is coming to a close, and I have that freedom.
And you mentioned being a huge sports fan, and I understand you're from New York City, right?
I'm from New York. I'm actually from Bayside, Queens, yes.
So you a New York sports fan?
I am. New York Jets fan.
Oh, wow. Okay. Should be a good year for you guys. We'll
I hope
see.
so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So take me back to your early days growing up in Queens. What were you like growing up?
I was a troublemaker. No, I love to play sports. So I was a kid that would wake up, crack of dawn and go out and play soccer or play basketball and would come home right before the sunset because that was my curfew. So I was literally at a park all day long whenever I wasn't in school, just being very active.
And you're a pretty good soccer player from what I understand.
I mean, I was in my youth. I played Division One soccer, and then unfortunately, I got hurt while I was at the Naval Academy. But in my heyday, I was pretty good.
And you had a couple scholarship offers. What made you choose the Naval Academy?
That's a tough one. Yeah, I mean, I had over 60 full rides, and the decision that my dad made at the time was, this is the best opportunity for you. Go here for a year, and if you don't like it, then you can go anywhere you want. But just give it a try. It was very unique. We did a tour, and we just fell in love with the campus. It was close to New York. It was only it was less than a 4 hour drive, so my family could come watch me play and support me. Where if I went to some other schools, they'd have to fly out, and it would be far more challenging. So, I mean, and it's just the tradition there at the Naval Academy is fantastic.
Yeah.
The camaraderie is amazing. So we felt that we'd be joining a family. I wouldn't just be one kid in a school of 20, 30,000. So that's really what won us over at the time.
And how'd you get hurt?
Uh, I had a freak accident when I was at practice. I broke my tibia and fibula bone.
Oh man.
So it was just one of those freak accidents. It took me about 8 months to recover. And by then, my freshman year was over. So it's just, unfortunately, I actually didn't even get to play in a single game my freshman year because I got hurt about 10 days before the season started.
Oh man.
It was
So
tough.
that made you decide to eventually leave the academy, right? And you got started in the hospitality industry.
Well, my father passed away that year, so after I completed my freshman year, I came home and then I started. Yes, I started working, got into hospitality. I started with a very small. I was actually in sales right out of college. I worked for Bell Atlantic Mobile, which is now Verizon Wireless, and then from there, I had an itch to go into the restaurants and bar business, and so I opened up small places in Midtown in Hell's Kitchen, and it kind of grew from there. So it was a slow process, but over the years, I've done a lot of things in hospitality, from nightlife, from nightclubs to bars to restaurants to now having a concierge company. So yes, I've been very active within hospitality for close to 20 years.
So you were like 19, 20 years old and you were opening up restaurants and bars?
Yes, I was. My first restaurant I opened in 1999. So I was 21 years old, and it was in Hell's Kitchen, 51st Street and 9th Avenue.
Wow. And what was that process like?
I mean, I was a little baby and I thought I knew everything. So it was very difficult because it was a 50-seat restaurant, Mediterranean place. I had one partner at the time, and he kind of took the reins as far as the build out and doing all that stuff. But because I was young and I was affluent and I know a lot of people, and we have a very big Greek community in New York. Once we got the doors open, I was able to tap into my friends and my resources, which were very, very minimal at the time, but I got some support from my family, and we did well. It was a great learning experience. Owning your own business, everybody wants to do it, but it's very challenging and it's very difficult. So it taught me at a very young age that you're gonna get you have to overcome a lot of hardships, but if you just work really hard and get through them, then you're gonna be fine. It's just don't give up and just keep fighting. And I learned that at a very, very young age.
And how did your people skills kind of develop over time? Is that something that always came naturally to you?
Well, it depends on who you ask, because some people will tell you that I'm the most charming and lovable guy, and then others will tell you that I'm a complete prick. Because being a New Yorker, I'm a very matter of fact person, and so if you're not from the East Coast, you think that we're abrupt and we're rude, but in actuality, we don't like to waste time. So my West Coast friends think I'm a little rough around the edges. My East Coast friends think I'm awesome. So it really depends on who you ask. But I was taught at a very young age that treat people the way you want to be treated, whether it's a CEO of a big company, whether it's a mom and pop person, whether it's the bathroom attendant at a hotel, whatever that you come into contact with people, just treat them the way that you want to be treated. And more so when somebody treats you poorly. And that's always been hard for me because, my instincts have always been when somebody reacts poorly to me, I want to get defensive and be, a tough guy. But I've learned that, it doesn't work. You can kill people with kindness and you can get the results that you want and you can live a much happier life and not always try to have your way and let your ego get the best of you. So it's something that's taken me a very long time to get used to. But now I'm at a point where I'm very comfortable with myself, and I understand that you just got to take a deep breath and stay positive, and the negativity will just kind of deflect itself and move around you.
Mm-hmm. So you opened up that place in Hell's Kitchen, and then what was next for you?
After that, I actually opened up a nightclub, and that was in Astoria, in Queens, New York, a very large nightclub at the time. And that was my first lesson in dealing with many partners. And it's something that I hope to never have to deal with again, because when there's too many chefs in the kitchen and too many bosses, things don't get done. The only thing that gets done is you exert a lot of energy and time. And so it was a very challenging time in my life because I was faced with hardships that I didn't want to deal with and with people that I did not really enjoy working with. So I ended up walking away from that nightclub and giving up my investment, losing all my money, and being damn right, broke and on the street after that, actually. And so it taught me a lot about humbling myself and being smart in who you work with. Because at the end of the day, if you work with the wrong partners and you have the wrong people around you, they're going to eventually, bring you down.
And how'd you bounce back from that? Because you were still pretty young, but
I was young. I literally I put all my money into this opportunity, and so I just started working again. I got a sales job. At the time, I decided that I was going to go back to school and further my education. So I went to Nassau Community College at night in between working a job. And about a year later, another restaurant opportunity presented itself. So I decided to get involved in another restaurant. This time that was on 56th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue, right in Midtown Manhattan, right off 5th Avenue. So I decided to take all the money that I had saved up. I sold my house and I downgraded and I moved to another house so that I can get some cash flow. And I put everything that I had into that restaurant, and we made it a very big success. So I took another chance, but this time I took it on myself and not on others. And it ended up, panning out for me. I took a place that had 14 employees to 35 employees. We started doing catering all over Midtown Manhattan. Trump Towers was our big account. We were dealing with Henry Bendel. Every major store on Fifth Avenue, Merrill Lynch building, we catered to them. So we really did a great job of more than tripling the staff and increasing sales tremendously. So I had learned from my prior mistakes, from my little restaurant and from my little nightclub stint, and I was able to really focus on the positives and what I had learned and minimize the mistakes, and had a successful business.
And by then I'm imagining you started to develop a little bit of a reputation.
I did. When you're working with these major companies, Prada, all these big, Warren Tricome, there's countless companies on Fifth Avenue that we were working with. I started dealing with some really high-end brands and word travel that this guy in this restaurant, they've got a great product. They're not late. They provide you with good service. So just like everything else in life, you do something well, and for a long enough time, people are going to hear about it, and then word travels. And that's what, this was before the Instagrams and the social media craze. So, from 2002 until 2010, this is we had Facebook at the time, but that was in its early stages. It was all word of mouth, and we did a really good job. And my reputation for having our staff was amazing. Our staff was very friendly. There was 22 eateries at the time on my block. So you had 22 restaurants that you can choose from on my block. And yet we were probably top 2 or 3 on that block.
And how did Vegas get on your radar? Was it around that time?
Vegas got on my radar because being in the restaurant business, you're working 7 days a week, anywhere from 14 to 18 hours a day. So once the business was doing well, I needed a break. And some friends of mine were like, hey, let's go to Vegas. And we went to Vegas for a weekend, had a great time. And so it became like a tradition. Every couple of months, we just go to Vegas for a weekend just to get away. Because when I'm not at work, I'm losing money, right? Because things are not going as well as when I'm there. So I would just take 2 days. I take the weekend off, and I go to Vegas. And after a while, after I'd gone to Vegas 10, 15 times, I got to know a lot of people and nightlife and casino hosts. And my buddies were like, all right, this guy wants to go. And then some of my corporate accounts were like, hey, we heard you're the Vegas guy. You're always going there. Can you connect us? So it became kind of like I'm the Vegas guy. And I would refer people to acquaintances or people that I knew whenever they were going to Vegas to go and have a good time. And over the years, it amazed me that I would refer people, and the people in Vegas would always drop the ball. I would say half the times they wouldn't call people back. They just wouldn't do what they're supposed to do. So I got frustrated. And my landlord ends up buying the buildings next to my restaurant on either side, and his plan was to demolish them and build a high-rise. So I end up losing my lease in 2010, and I got left with the option of open up a new restaurant or find a new career. And so I took a few months off, and I was recruited by a company here, a hospitality company, to come out here and work for them. So I came out, I interviewed for this job, and literally overnight, I'm like, okay, guys, I'm moving to Vegas tomorrow. My family was shocked. They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean going to go to Vegas? That's the other side of the country, and you have no one there, and who's going to support you? And I was like, listen, I feel it. I've been to Vegas 30, 40 times by now. I know Vegas well. Obviously, I know all the casinos, I know all the hotels, and all the clubs. So, and I have a few people that I know here. So how hard can it be? If I don't like it, I can come back. So I end up just literally packing up, and a week after my interview, I'm living in Vegas. It was a challenge, not having any support, any real friends or family, and being thrust into, at this point, the past 10 years, I've owned my own companies, been my own boss, to now I'm working for a company. I'm dealing with a ton of bosses, a ton of egos, a ton of attitudes. It was definitely a challenge for me. But just like anything else, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give it my best shot. And if it doesn't work out, at least I tried. And that's what I did. I worked at Wet Republic. I was a host at Wet Republic, which is a pool at the MGM. I was there. I worked with that company for a year. And then after that year, it was time for me to go on my own, because it was just too difficult dealing with so many people pulling me in different directions, telling me what to do. This manager was telling me to do this. This director was telling me to do that. The vice president was telling me something different. And it just got to a point where I'm like, all right, guys, you guys need to be on the same page, because there's just too many conflicting rules and things to follow. So I took the next challenging step, which was to start my own company, not have a guaranteed income, not have a salary, not have insurance, and go off on my own.
And did you always have that in mind, that you wanted to work for yourself?
Honestly, when I moved to Vegas, I didn't. I was very comfortable trying out corporate America and just being in the flow of things, because there's a stability there. Like I said, you're getting a salary, you're getting benefits, you work for a company, you have an HR, you have this, so it's a beautiful thing. But I quickly found out that it wasn't for me because there was just too much confusion. There's just too many people that were my bosses that didn't have their shit together, quite honestly, and they're supposed to be leading me and others to success when they can't lead themselves. So I quickly realized, like, okay, listen, make the best of it, learn what you can, because living in a new city, you've got to really get entrenched and ingrained and learn everything and meet everyone. And a year later, it was time, and I went with it.
And what was that process like of starting your own company?
I mean, it's really honestly, it was starting it is easy. You file the paperwork, you get an accountant, you open up a corporation, you do all the legal things that you need to do. It takes you a couple of weeks. It's not very difficult. Open a bank account, this and that. But the hard thing was to actually get relationships with the casinos and with the hospitality groups, because that's how you earn a living. You have to have arrangements with these clubs, with these pool parties, to be able to bring in your clientele, to be treated fairly. So that took some time. Of course, I knew people at that point, but I did not have in their mind a book of business. So they're hesitant to just let anyone be able to come into their venues. And even though you don't represent them, you're an extension of them. So for the first 6 months, it was very challenging. I was having people call me, hey, I'm coming to Vegas, I want to go out, and I'd be running around, and I was kind of just winging it. And then after that, people saw very quickly, these companies saw, wow, this guy has some really good clients. He's very professional in the way that he conducts himself. His clientele is great. I had amassed a ton of athletes, a ton of corporate executives, some of the wealthiest people in the world as my clientele. So they want these people in their venues. So they quickly said, all right, Manny, we want to work with you. We want you to affiliate with us. And it kind of went from there. It kind of just grew to the point where less than a year, like 8-9 months after I started that, I had to move my sister to Las Vegas to help me, because I was getting pulled in so many directions. I had so many groups coming into town at once that I couldn't be everywhere, and I didn't want the service to fall off. So I moved her out. She very quickly got acclimated to Vegas, and we just started growing as a company.
And what's it like working with your sister, working with family?
It's not easy. Yeah, that's an understatement. It's extremely challenging. My sister is an amazing woman. She is a very hard worker. She's very passionate. But it's hard because at the end of the day, her boss is her brother. And it's a very hard pill for her to swallow that I'm her boss. And sometimes the lines get blurred. Is he my brother? Is he my boss? Mm-hmm. Who am I talking to? And she's very proud, and she's an alpha female. So she is very, very, like I said earlier, passionate. And sometimes it leads to some heated conversations between us. But at the end of the day, I mean, we love each other. We're very different personalities on our personal lives, but when it comes to work, we have a lot of similarities. We're detail oriented. Our objective is always to make sure people are treated with the utmost respect, just like we would be. Every time I get a phone call, somebody that wants to work with us, I treat them the way if it was reversed, if I was calling them and they were going to be doing the job for me. So that's one thing where her and I align. And we might do things a little bit differently, but we have a common goal.
And what does a typical day look like for you and your sister?
Oh man, her days and my days are very different. I like to stay healthy. So like my day is waking up in the morning, going to either a yoga class or a spin class. And then depending on what I have, do some work, whether it's some emails or some calls. Most of my business is either through email or phone calls or texts. I don't necessarily have to be in an office per se. It's all done off my phone. So wake up, see what's come in, respond to people. And then, if I have a meeting, if I don't have a meeting, if I have a lunch, it depends. Like my days vary, but it's work out in the morning, do whatever I got to do during the day. I like to lift in the afternoon. And then if I don't have work, I'm a homebody, so I'm all about, like, reading, watching movies, maybe hanging out with some friends, grabbing dinner. But I'm very low key. My sister, on the other hand, she's always busy doing things. She's not really one to work out, so she's usually always making some deals, networking. She's far better at trying to obtain business than I am. I am more like, okay, how can I do something that's not work related unless I have to work, because I want to get my mind away from work, where she is work, 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 work 24/7.
And with clients, I'm just trying to understand, is it like a one-time thing, like people will find out about you, hear about you, call you, or is it more of like an ongoing relationship with these clients?
Oh no, most of our clients are repeat guests. So our business is based in Las Vegas, but our concierge company is worldwide. So once we start working with people, we help them in LA and Miami. I mean, right now we have groups that are in Greece for the summer vacationing. So it's usually never a one-time thing. Once people get to work with us, they're very happy, and so it extends and it becomes their family, their co-workers, their teammates. So our retention rate, so to speak,
Mhm.
is extremely high.
That's awesome. I didn't know you guys did it outside of Vegas.
Absolutely, yeah. Miami, I mean, any market where there's a need, we help people. I mean, I've had groups as far as going to Thailand for a company retreat that we help set up.
Wow.
So, depending on the client and what they want, we have the ability to facilitate. We have a worldwide network.
Yeah, how did you build that network over time? I mean, it's been what, 7 years since you guys started?
It's been 7 years. Well, listen, I mean, before I came here, I was still in hospitality. I lived in New York. I met people. I have a really vast Rolodex. And my sister was in finance before she moved here. So she was a mortgage banker, and she has a ton of relationships in the finance world. So that's still hospitality. It's different, but dealing with mortgages is still hospitality, right? You're servicing clients. So all we did was kind of just transition our clientele and our relationships into what we're doing now, because everyone travels, you know, almost everyone goes to Vegas at some point. But even if you don't go to Vegas, you go, you go on your vacation somewhere. And when you want to go there, you want to be taken care of. You want to know what's the best restaurant, what's the most happening club, where's the event to be. So that's what we do. So once people are referred to us and they find out what we do and they work with us firsthand and they see how we present ourselves and the work that we do, then they don't want anybody else. I mean, no one else can compete and do things the way that we do. I mean, there's many companies in the world that do what we do, but our pride is in that we don't market, we don't advertise. Everything we do is word of mouth, and people keep coming back. So we must be doing something right if people keep coming back to us.
For sure. And what's the Kess Group top five?
So the Kess Group Top 5 is actually a great idea that my sister had. So we are starting to just talk to our clientele and find out what their top 5 things are, whether it be your top 5 restaurants in the world, whether it be your top 5 destinations in the world. It could be, I have a couple of clients that are huge sneakerheads. Like, what are your top 5 pairs? It's just something that gives us, because we have access to some amazing people, that we can kind of just figure out something that's unique to them. So that's what the top 5 is.
That's very cool. And you co-produced the second annual 50K charity challenge hosted by Floyd Mayweather, Rob Gronkowski. How'd that go?
That was amazing. I mean, I was just a small piece of a very big pie. I mean, there was a lot of us, a lot of companies that put it together, and it was fantastic. It's a charity basketball game that we put on the week of the ESPYs, and it was, like you said, the second annual one. So we started last year at the UCLA Pauley Pavilion. Last year, I think we had about 4,000 attendees, and which was great. And this year, it went well. Yet last year, I mean, people were so happy to participate, and it was a great game, and it's a competitive basketball game. We have a ton of professional athletes. We have celebrities. We have, a lot of hot up and coming artists. Like this year, we had the baby perform for our halftime show, which was pretty awesome. So it's a great opportunity to put our relationships together for a good cause, which is to raise money for charity. Floyd was great. Gronk, amazing. I mean, Monster was a very big part of putting this event together, and it was a very big sponsor. So we did a little bit over 8,000 people this year, which is tremendous.
That's incredible.
That's yeah. I mean, that's more than some professional basketball teams get to go to a game, let alone some little charity event that we put on. So it was really, really awesome. We had a tremendous amount of support. We had, the Bachelor there. We had Snoop came by. Just so many people that heard about it through, again, our network and a little bit of marketing that we had. And it was a really fun event. So I was really proud to be a part of that. We had about 15 of our clients that participated. So it was really, really cool. And they loved it. And that's the thing where, these guys, they don't have to come, like Jarvis Landry and Joe Hayden and a bunch of other guys. They didn't have to go there. They're not getting paid. So they just show up because A, it's for charity, and B, it's the relationship. You're my boy. I take care of you. You know what? Come hang out for this really awesome event and be a part of something much bigger. And they're happy to do it. And, it's amazing to me because I know for a fact that guys like Floyd, Gronk, Jarvis, they get hit up every day for stuff. And they literally have to pick and choose because they cannot just accommodate every request. So the fact that they came and accommodated ours, that meant a lot to me personally.
That's awesome. And all for charity, too, is just an amazing thing. 8,000 people coming.
It is. I mean, it's so incredible that next year there's a couple of channels that are talking about producing the event and putting it on TV and doing a live show. So, we'll see where that takes us, but it's a testament. Like I said, I was just one of many, many people that made that happen. And it was really a fantastic event to be a part of. And I'm excited to be a part of it again next year. And hopefully it hits, an even bigger plateau and we reach more people, we raise more money. So it was really a fantastic event.
So when I was doing my research, I came across a video you did a little while ago, and they asked you, what are some of the craziest things you've been asked to do? Do you have any funny stories or anything about that?
It's crazy because, like I said, we don't advertise and we don't market. So I'm really amazed at how people find us. And, I don't want to give out names, but we get asked the craziest things. So, for example, just this past weekend, we had a celebrity client who came into town and wanted to take his family to see a show. And you'd be like, okay, why can't they go online and just do that, right? Like, why are they calling me? And I had helped another A-list celebrity a couple of years ago. She was performing here. She had a concert here, and she hurt her back the day before. So her manager called me up. He's like, hey, we're landing in 3 hours. I need you to get me a chiropractor to come and give her an adjustment because she's got to perform tonight, and she hurt her back yesterday. And I'm like, okay. And literally within 3 hours, I had to get a chiropractor that was going to go do a hotel visit to adjust and fix this person's back. So because I did that and I came through and I made it happen, that manager somehow knew the manager of this person here, and they were like, oh, you got to call Manny. So they called me, and it was Saturday night, and they wanted to go to see a show Sunday night. And I had to get them 10 seats together, VIP seats, private entry, the whole 9 yards. And you would think it's easy, but it's not easy that within 24 hours to get 10 tickets to 10 seats together and put all this into action. But of course, it's what we do. So we made it happen. So instead of me sitting at home on Sunday, well, my plan was to go watch The Lion King. I had to go run around with a very famous artist and get him and his family in to see a show. So that might not be what people think of like Vegas, like, oh my God, tell me about your hangover stories. But it just shows you like how unique some requests are. I mean, we've had requests where we had a client who was at a pool party and was like, I want what's the proper term now? I want a little person to bring out my bottle. If you get me a little person, by the time you guys close, I'll order the biggest bottle of champagne that you have. So literally, we had 2 hours to find a little person to come out to the pool and do this presentation. And of course, we found him, but he couldn't carry the bottle because the bottle was bigger than him. So we just did something where they had this like boat. So the little person and the bottle came out on this boat, and they presented it to the client. And the guy spent a lot of money on a bottle.
My dad was actually telling me a story. He used to work all the concerts as a stagehand. He said that there was a very famous singer that came in and wanted all the red M&Ms picked out, or red Skittles or something. He wanted only a specific color. And they had it all in his dressing room, and he didn't even eat them.
Yeah, I mean, Mariah Carey's been well known for that. I think for her it might be Skittles and not M&Ms, but I mean, a lot of artists, they have their certain, whether it's superstition or just things that make that, they want special for them. So yeah, that happens.
And has there ever been a time that you haven't been able to come through with any like crazy request?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when things start to hit the line of being illegal, that's where, I take a hard pass and I say thank you for the opportunity, but that's not, within my wheelhouse. I'll do anything that's legal, but once it crosses that line, I don't, it's not worth it. There's not enough money, and there's not, for me, it's about principle. So I've been offered an extreme amount of money to do some pretty crazy things, but I had to pass. And I was like, you know what? I'm sure you can find somebody else that can help you, but I'm not the guy. And my sister's the same way. My sister, she literally, I mean, she's a far more understanding than I am, and she has more patience than I do. So she tends to take on a lot more of the, let's call it the highly popular clientele that we have, because, usually the more fame someone has or the more wealth that they have, they're just accustomed to be able to do more things, right? They have a lot more freedom and they can get away with a lot more. So she understands that and has more patience, where for me, my patience tend to run a little thinner. Mm-hmm. So she handles that a lot better than I do.
So we touched on your people skills, and obviously you have a massive network. What are some tips you have for people who are trying to build their network and grow their network? You know what?
It's not rocket science. Just be out there, explore, go to different places, meet people, but always be courteous. You never know who you're talking to. And it doesn't matter, again, if it's a bathroom attendant, a taxi driver, a Fortune 500 CEO, a president of a professional team, or a professional athlete. Just treat everyone with respect and just be nice to everyone. And if you want something in life, you got to go for it. Don't just, pray and say, "Oh my God, I want to be rich," and "Oh my God, I want to be successful." No, you got to bust your ass. You got to wake up every day with a plan and keep working at it. And when you accomplish it, that's when the real work starts. Because once you become successful, there's 100 people that want to take you off that pedestal. So that's when you got to work even harder to stay there and maintain what you have and what you've built.
And before we wrap things up, do you want to tell people where they can find you, how they can support what you got going on?
Absolutely. So you can visit us at www.thekessgroup.com. We got our contact information there. People that are, like I said, whether it's Las Vegas, Miami, LA, international, we help customize trips and plan whatever you can imagine. It can be from 2 people to 2,000. We work with all budgets. And it's been awesome. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Manny. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I know you're really busy. This is the busy season for you, but I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
If this conversation added any value to your life or taught you something new or helped you think about things a little bit differently, you don't have to subscribe. You don't have to leave a review. All I ask is that you just tell one friend. We don't care about the numbers. We don't care about the stats and all that stuff. What we do care about is impacting lives. And by telling someone about the show, you're helping us do that. So thanks for tuning in, and remember, Hustle and Motivate is brought to you by JokerMag.com, the home of the underdog.